Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lindsay Bradford, and I will be with you today discussing determining eligibility for families. And also joining me is Danielle Pollard-Broussard, who is one of our CCAP program managers. Today we're going to discuss the procedures for determining students' eligibility, including the new direct match system, as well as the requirements for qualification in the LA4 and NSCCD programs and the Child Care Assistance Program. Specifically, what is required of you as lead agency in this process. So let's talk a little bit about why we're doing this today. Bulletin 140 requires that a coordinated system of student enrollment is established within each community network, and as lead agencies, you are required to incorporate each component of the four-part enrollment system: the coordinated information campaign, coordinated eligibility determination, coordinated applications, and matching based on family preference. Today, we're going to focus specifically on coordinated eligibility determination, because eligibility is ultimately the core of these programs. We are required by law to fund programs to serve children who are economically disadvantaged. In order to do this effectively, we must have a consistent set of criteria by which eligibility is determined so that opportunities are equitable and parents are aware of which programs are available to them. First, let's talk about who we're serving. In order to qualify for a particular program, a child must be identified as economically disadvantaged. Families with incomes at or below 200% of the federal poverty level are considered economically disadvantaged. As you know, eligibility for pre-kindergarten programs was once aligned with eligibility for the free and reduced lunch program. However, with so many districts participating in the CEP program and all children in a given district receiving free lunch, it became increasingly necessary that we define a process by which eligibility is determined outside of the processes established by the cafeteria program. What this means for you as lead agency is that as part of the coordinated enrollment process, you are responsible for determining child eligibility in your community network. In addition to being economically disadvantaged, children who are in foster care and homeless children will automatically qualify for publicly funded programs. Children who are identified as having special needs or English language learners may be eligible to receive services, but still must be income eligible to participate in publicly funded pre-K programs. They are not automatically eligible to receive a seat through LA4 or NSCCD unless they meet the income requirements for those programs. Pre-K programs are required to serve children who meet certain eligibility criteria. They must be 4 years old by September 30th of their pre-K year. They must meet certain income requirements, and they must have documentation of all immunizations received that are required for school entry. The law requires that children who participate in a publicly funded pre-K program be 4 years old by September 30th of their pre-kindergarten year. A valid birth certificate should be collected to verify their date of birth. For our purposes, we will use 2019-2020 for all examples. So a child would need to have a birthday that falls between October 1st of 2014 and September 30th of 2015 in order to be age eligible for the 2019-2020 year. You should also verify that the person completing the application is the parent listed on the birth certificate. If not, court-issued documentation should also be submitted. This can come in the form of custody judgment signed by a judge, a placement agreement from DCFS for children in foster care, or a provisional custody by mandate or military power of attorney. The provisional custody by mandate and military power of attorney are both legal forms which will need to be appropriately notarized to be valid. Families may also submit the non-legal custodian's affidavit, which does not grant legal custody, but allows a person other than the legal guardian to authorize educational services and school-related medical services for the named child if the parent is unable to be present. We are very excited about the new direct match system. and the potential ease that it will bring to networks for eligibility determination. It is very important to note that the data contained in the direct match system is confidential and must be protected. It is important to note that you will not be able to access children's or families' individual Medicaid or SNAP information. You will only be able to determine that a child is eligible for those services based on whether they are in the system or not. This information is private and assurances may need to be signed. Information included in eScholar is collected for the purpose of doing state and federal reporting, making data available to educators and other stakeholders, and providing services to students. Student data are protected by state and federal laws and must be maintained in a confidential manner at all times. Unauthorized viewing, reproduction, copying, and/or distribution of any student record or information outside the intended and approved use are strictly prohibited. Users violating the authorized use of the system and/or data will lose access privileges to the system and/or data. Illegal access or misuse of the information will be reported to the proper authority. In the next few slides, we'll go through some screenshots of what you will see when you log on to the direct match system. As a side note, we are still working through some technical issues on our end that have prevented us from granting access, but we are hoping that these will be resolved very soon. The login URL to access the site, louisianasecureid.escholar.com, is linked on your screen. In addition, the survey for each network to submit your designated user information is still open. If you have not done so, please complete the survey. Each network will be allowed 2 users only. When logging into the eScholar Direct Match system, users should use the login URL, as I mentioned, louisianasecureid.escholar.com, which is also linked on this slide, and enter the login information, which will be provided to you by the early childhood team. Once you log on to Direct Match, you will see this screen, the Direct Match dashboard. From this screen, you will select the menu icon in the upper left-hand corner. On the menu, you should then see Match as an option. Selecting Match will bring you to the screen that you see at the bottom of the slide. You will have 2 choices here. 1, upload a file which will contain multiple students. This process was detailed in our vendor webinars in December, and if you need additional information on this, again, we'll be happy to send that out to you. The second option is the Enter Online option, which will allow users to manually enter children for individual matching. This will likely be the easiest option if you're working with a few children at a time. When you select the Enter Online option, click the tab, and then you will need to select the Match to ECE SNAP or ECE Medicaid options. Do not select any other options that may be available. You'll then complete the online entry form by entering all available information for each child in each field in order to get the best match outcome. Certain fields are required. Once you have entered all of this information, you will select Match. The matching process provides 3 possible outcomes. 1, a match when the match probability is 93 to 100%. 2, a near match when match probability is 88 to 92%. And 3, a no match when the match probability is less than 87%. And you will be given the opportunity to resolve a near match or a no match once you've matched your student. As I mentioned, the menu screen gives you 3 options. Return to the dashboard, match students, or the My Students screen. After you've matched your students, the results can be found on the dashboard. However, selecting My Students will provide users with a complete list of all matched students as of the date the match was conducted, using the steps that are listed in red above. This list can be downloaded and saved. In addition, you can perform a search of a specific child using the last name sort function, which is circled in blue. This will allow you to search children by last name and select the child you are looking for from that list. Once you select the child, it will provide you with a 1-student batch file, which includes the date that child was matched, that you will be able to print for record keeping and monitoring purposes as needed. During the eligibility determination process, at least one form of income verification documentation must be reviewed if and when the direct match process is not used. So I want to mention that direct match is not required, and if you choose not to use it as a network, these are going to be the options that you'll need to use. This documentation could be check stubs, current food stamp or SNAP benefit information, an official letter from their employer, which includes where they're employed, their hourly rate of pay, and the average number of hours that they work per week. A monetary determination for unemployment benefits, a statement from the Social Security Administration verifying that the child listed on the application is the recipient of SSI benefits, which would also be accompanied by 2 check stubs if the person is also working. Children in foster care can be determined eligible with a current placement agreement from DCFS. Families in a temporary living arrangement due to loss of housing or economic hardship should have their homeless status verified using the process in place within each school district. Tax forms, including 1099s, W-2s, and tax returns, are allowable as proof of income only when no other documentation exists. In addition, you should only collect tax information for the most recent tax year. For example, in determining 2019-2020 eligibility, you should only use 2018 tax documentation. A statement of no income form must be completed by any adult household members who are claiming 0 income of any kind. So if the family lives with grandma who does not work or provide financial support to the family, this can be indicated on the statement of no income, which she will need to submit because she is an adult who is included in the household number. A declaration of employment form must be completed by any adult household members who are employed intermittently, self-employed, or who, for whatever reason, do not have tax return forms, W-2 forms, check stubs, or applicable Department of Children and Family Services printouts to verify their income. So now we're going to talk a little bit about check stubs. A couple of things to note about collecting check stubs. You must collect 2 most recent consecutive check stubs for each parent or caregiver in the home for the current year. Their pay dates should fall within 2 months from the date they are completing the application. Income verification is only based on regular or base pay. We do not include overtime, tips, extra pay for night shifts, housing allowances, etc. This is why you will see the hourly rate is the most consistent method of calculating income. Eligibility is based on gross household income. Therefore, if there are 2 or more adults contributing to the financial needs of the family, all of them must provide proof of income. We've had some questions about this come up recently. So here's a couple of scenarios that will hopefully offer some clarification. If a mother and her 2 children live with her parents, but she is working and financially supporting herself and her children, and her parents do not provide direct financial support, you would only include the mother and her children in the household size. However, if she lives with her parents and they do provide direct financial support, you would either have them verify how much per month they provide to her and count it as income, or you would include them in the family size and collect their income in addition to the mother's. If you have any other questions about this or specific cases, feel free to shoot me an email and we can work through it. We've provided for you here the current income limits for pre-K programs. As we move through our examples, you'll want to refer to this chart to help you calculate income correctly. You will use these formulas in calculating income from check stubs as well as letters from employers. You should also refer to this chart as we move through our examples. It should be noted that using the hourly rate to determine income is, as I mentioned, the most accurate and consistent method. Again, income is most consistently and accurately calculated using the hourly rate. In addition, you must always assume that an employee works a 40-hour work week and calculate it as such. So let's look at a couple of examples. Mrs. Smith has come to you to find a pre-K program for her child. She provides a check stub showing an hourly rate of $20. you will calculate it as $20 times 40 hours per week times 4.33. Mrs. Smith's monthly income is $3,464 a month. She's a single mom and has one child, so she's a family size of 2, and therefore she would not be eligible. Mrs. Smith claims she does not work 40 hours a week. In these instances, the parent will need to provide a letter from their employer indicating the number of hours they actually work. You can use this to recalculate their income. Mrs. Smith provides this letter from her employer that shows she only works 20 hours per week. You may calculate her income as $20 per hour times 20 hours per week times 4.33, which equals $1,732, which makes her child eligible. So now let's look at SNAP benefits. Families who receive SNAP benefits or food stamps are categorically eligible to participate in publicly funded pre-K programs. There are a couple of different documents that can be submitted to substantiate participation in this program. The Louisiana Purchase Card is not an acceptable document as valid proof that the family receives SNAP benefits, so they cannot use their Louisiana Purchase Card. The most important thing to remember is that the documentation must include the child's name as well as the effective dates of their case. The document that you see on your screen is a standard SNAP change closure letter sent from DCFS. This letter will include an expiration date on the first page, which is circled in red here, and a full listing of household members on the following pages. It's important to verify not only a current open case using the expiration date, but also that the child applying for the seat is among the family members included in that case. The next form that can substantiate SNAP participation is a case detail report printed from CAFE. This report will include current certification dates as well as a list of included family members. Families may also be able to access the CAFE portal on their phone and can provide this document via a screenshot, which they can email to you. So there are some things that you cannot accept as income verification. Tax documentation should not be your go-to for income verification. We are looking for a snapshot of the current family income situation. So tax forms should only be used if a family has no other documented proof of income. And in cases where tax return information is being used, you should not use previous tax years. For example, 2019-2020 eligibility should be determined using 2018 tax returns. Medicaid documentation is another item that cannot be used. The income limits for Medicaid eligibility may differ from those allowed for publicly funded pre-K programs. Child support should not be used as a sole source of income. If the family states that it is their only source of income, they'll need to provide documentation showing that it is court-ordered and write a letter stating that no other income is received. They can also use the statement of no income form for this. The last thing we're going to talk about for pre-K programs is the immunization requirements. While up-to-date immunizations are required for school entry and participation in publicly funded pre-K programs, you may choose to include verification as part of the registration process. Should you verify immunizations as part of the eligibility determination process, you should know what to look for. The immunizations referenced on this page are those required for school entry. Parents who choose not to vaccinate their children due to medical, religious, or philosophical reasons will need to submit the Statement of Exemption form. It's linked here for your convenience, and I can also email it to you upon request if need be. And more information can be found at the website lalinks.org/linksweb. And this is really what we prefer you to use when documenting immunizations. Parents should have a copy of their child's report from the Links website with an expiration date that will verify and confirm that their immunizations are up to date. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Danielle Broussard, who is going to talk about CCAP eligibility and the complete application process.
Thank you, Lindsay. The Child Care Assistance Program's sole purpose is to provide subsidy assistance for high-quality child care to low-income families while they work and/or attend school. The eligibility requirements for the program are determined by several factors such as household size, household income, the number of hours the child is in care, and the number of hours the client and/or any adult caregiver works or attends school or educational training program. In reference to income, the department utilizes a sliding fee scale in order to measure the earned and unearned income of the household size, and this is to ensure that families do not exceed the maximum limit. For example, for a household of 2 people, the maximum amount is $24.03. The yellow area is for families that fall within our graduated phase-out tier at redetermination. Now we will walk through and discuss the complete application process. After receiving feedback from numerous clients, providers, and stakeholders in reference to processing time and making an eligibility determination, CCAP implemented the complete application process. This allowed processing time to be dramatically shortened and more families given the opportunity to receive the subsidy. The complete application means the application and all necessary documents are submitted all at one time. The 3 terms that everyone should be familiar with in relation to the complete application are incomplete application, awaiting verification, and complete. An example of an incomplete application status is the application is received, but verification of age and ENT was not submitted. In this case, the client must reapply. An example for awaiting verification is the client submitted an application with check stubs, but check stubs were not within the 45-day time frame. In this case, the client will need to submit check stubs within the 45-day time frame in order for the application to be processed. Lastly, complete is the status that we would all like to see. This means the client has submitted all necessary verification with their application and it's ready for processing. Some required verifications that may be asked upon the client when they're submitting their application is to verify age and relationship, which in this case, a birth certificate or baptismal certificate or hospital records will suffice. Also, to verify their alien status if they are not a U.S. citizen. We will ask that they submit form or card from the USCIS in order to verify that status. Also, as previously mentioned, 4 consecutive check stubs within the 45 days or an employer statement for each person that works within the household. If they are self-employed, they may submit income tax returns, sale records, or quarterly tax records, or personal wage verification. We also require that immunizations be verified. This can be shot records from school or the doctor's office. We also utilize links internally, and we need to ensure that all students' shots are up to date. Other incomes such as contributions, child support, alimony, Social Security, SSI, etc., are all verification documents required to verify unearned income. If income has been discontinued within the last 3 months, we also require that you submit a pink slip or termination notice from your formal employer. If the child is special needs, in order to verify this, we would need an IEP or an IFSP from the doctor or whoever the service provider is. In order to verify your school attendance or job training, a detailed school schedule is needed from an accredited school or job training program, indicating the days and times of attendance. A few things within the complete application that are beneficial to providers is the household designee form and the rate and availability form information has now been included within the complete application. The clients are completing the application, so it will be helpful for the provider to give the client the provider name, the provider number, the owner and director's name, the hours of operation, transportation, child care information, including the child's name and the number of hours for care needed, and if summer and holiday care is also needed. At initial application and redetermination period, providers will not have to complete the 7B as mentioned before. However, if a child is changing child care providers, a CCAP 10, which is a report of changes, will be needed in order for the client to transfer. Information, including your household designees, is now encompassed within the complete application. You can have up to 4 household designees, including the head of household, on a case status. We would need the first and last name of the household designee, their address, and their date of birth. So let's go through an example. Ruby Smith submitted a CAFE application for her grandchildren, Dylan, 8 months, Deja, 2 years old, and Dakaria, 13 years old. She submitted court order custody documents, her SSI award letter, and no birth verification for the children. Is this application considered complete? In this case, no. This application will not be considered complete because birth verification is needed for all children in the household. And again, examples of this will be the birth certificate, baptismal certificate, hospital birth records, or guardian or custodial documents. For additional CCAP resources, you can utilize the following links below, which guide you to our direct website, the complete application link, or School and Sender Finder to provide provider information.
Thanks, Sonia. That wraps up everything that we have to present to you. So we're going to stop now and take some questions. If you have a question, if you'll just type it in the chat box, we'll be happy to answer it. So we have a question for shot records. Since the immunizations are tied to an expiration date, as long as we are verifying the expiration date, we don't need to check for the individual shots. Is this correct? If you have been given a link report printed from the link system or from the pediatrician's office that has an expiration date on it, that system is built to account for all required immunizations, and the expiration date would be valid, and you would not need to actually look at each individual shot. As long as they are within their expiration date, you do not have to go back and verify that every shot was received, as long as it's from links. Now, if they bring you a handwritten, you know, the old school handwritten report, then you would have to go in and verify either one, that they're in links and print that report, or two, verify each individual shot. Are school nurses allowed to print links reports? That's a good question, and there's been some discussion about that. To my knowledge, there is somebody within a district that has the links access. Whether or not it's each individual school nurse or not, I'm not sure. But there is a district person or persons who does have access to the link system. Who it is in each district, I'm not sure. If there is a mom and a dad in the household and only the mom works, does the dad need to complete the statement of no income? Yes. Any adult who lives in the household will need some, you have to have some document backing up each adult individual that lives in the household, just so that we have, for audit and monitoring purposes, we want to make sure we have everybody that's in the house, included in the household number, documented in some form. Where do we sign up for direct match? So each community network will be allowed 2 direct match users. There is a survey that's linked in this presentation for lead agencies to go in and assign 2 users that we will go in and grant access to. So if you are interested in being one of those users, you would need to contact your lead agency and see if they've already assigned those roles. If a child's birthday falls in September, can we accept an appointment card because registration is taking place in March, so the family will not have to wait on updated immunizations? Yes, you may. We don't give access to links. That's through the Department of Hospitals. I can email you regional contact information. If your district is interested in someone getting access to links, I can send you the information for who you need to contact. Other than that, I'm not sure who they allow to have access to links. You would need to contact them for that. What will be the required documentation needed for the direct match system if we're entering children one at a time? Would that need to be printed for each child for their verification? So if you are entering students in order to match them, as much information as you can collect is great. So you would want their name, their address, their date of birth, you know, anything that can identify that child within a system where there are likely multiple children with the same name. Then once you've matched that child and you can go in and pull that individual batch record for that child, then you would search by last name and that will give you a screen that you should be able to print out. And I see that Brandy is on this webinar as well. She's one of our IT gurus. And if that is incorrect, Brandy, would you type in the chat box and let me know? Brandy says that's correct. This webinar will be, it is being recorded, so you will get a link to it for the recording, and we will also send it out to you in a PDF version so that you can print it out easily. Are there any other questions today? I want to mention that if you are asking questions on the phone, we cannot hear you, so you'll need to type it into the chat box. And if you're not on the computer, you can send it to me in an email. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions. So if you think of anything, just shoot us an email and we'll be happy to respond. But with that, I'm going to thank everybody for joining today and end the webinar. Thanks, everybody.